Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Boulevard. We are here this week covering one of the big boys in the Big Ten. We're finally getting to the meat on the bone here. Going to cover some of these bigger teams, and we're going to have Notre Dame as well tonight. We're going to have a breakdown of them. First of all, I just want to say I appreciate all the love, comments, views, subs, new subs, everything. The activity on the channel has been incredible. So, and then secondly, anyone out in Hawaii who was affected by the tsunamis, you're in our thoughts. And I hopefully it wasn't too bad, but you're definitely in our thoughts. And lastly, real quick, like him or not, I wanted to shout out Coach Prime with the bladder cancer. Hope he recovers well. Sounds like he is. But regardless of whether you like him or not, cancer's a heavy thing for me because I take care of my mother-in-law who has it, and I see the struggle. So shout out Coach Prime. Hope you get well. And let's move on to some football here. I'm excited for this one. I wanted to my Clemson apparel came in today. My 2025-2026 national champions. And my Jayhawks shirt will be here tomorrow, I believe. So,
Very nice.
So there we go. So tonight you're going to see us talk a little bit about also who's in or out. Now that we're in these bigger conference, our two bigger conferences, you're going to see multiple bids here. So we'll be telling you who's in, who's out, as well as who do we think will make the Big Ten title game and possibly win the national championship. But yeah, everybody doing good tonight?
Yeah,
ready to rock and roll.
Sir, doing
a lot of
good.
info on this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hop right into it here. I'm going to throw the betting odds up, but I'm going to throw it over to Big T and let him start with the defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes.
Buck nuts. Hey, them boys came through clutch for us in the playoff last year. We bet on them every week, and they covered every week. So, big shout out to them. Yeah, looking at this team, man, they're going to be just fine. Again this year, they're probably going to go. Worst case scenario, they're going to go 10-2. Just to be 100% honest with you, it's really going to come down to Julian saying and how well he does. But also, back when Cardell Jones and all them were playing, Cardell hadn't played a snap and come in and led them to the title game. So I think they're going to be just fine. They're returning their cores at wide receiver, so they're going to have all their receivers back except Emeka Egbuka, but everybody else they're returning. Brian Hartline, the new OC, which he's been around the program for a few years now, consistently, so they're going to be fine on the offensive side of the ball. Matt Patricia coming in as a defensive coordinator. He's been all over the place in the NFL. So they're going to be just fine on offense. They didn't really have a huge transfer portal class, but they did hit some spots that they needed to hit on the offensive line. They brought some guys in. They brought in running back C.J. Donaldson from West Virginia, who was a really good player 2 years ago, had a pretty good year last year. So I think this team's going to be just fine, and their schedule's cake, to be honest with you. I think they're probably going to beat Texas week 1. At least I will be on Ohio State week 1. And then really outside of that, Penn State, which we know that Penn State is not going to win that game, as we have bet on Penn State every year for the past who knows how many years at this point, and we keep getting burned. And then the Michigan game. So I think they'll be 10-2, 11-1. Definitely making playoff.
In Jose in.
Yeah.
I'm in. One question I actually really wanted to ask you guys tonight too is I've seen this a lot and a lot of, I don't know, it's just weird. I've seen this a lot in a lot of threads and talks, but Julian Sayin or Ty Simpson, who has the better year?
Julian Sayin.
Yeah,
he has Jeremiah Smith. Because he's throwing to Jeremiah Smith. And as much as I like Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith is just better than him.
Jeremiah Smith is number 1 on PFF. So, but yeah, so there you go. Ohio State makes it back to the playoffs. Are they in the Big Ten title game? A Big Ten champion, Big T?
100%, yeah.
Big Ten title game. Are they your champion?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's move over to our favorite team in the Big Ten here, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Jose, go ahead and start on them for us. My favorite quarterback besides Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, baby.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, it's hard to look at this roster and not be impressed, right? Like, there's a reason why this team is one of the favorites to win the conference. There's a reason why this team's one of the favorites from the national championship. I mean, from the top down, look at the coordinators, right? They have two of the best in the country. Andy Kotelnicki, that's one of our guys, and three of us love this guy, respect him. He's one of the best OCs in the country. I have him up there as like a top 5 OC. Responsible for Jalen Daniels' success at Kansas. At least he had a big hand in that. Jim Knowles, they just plucked him from Ohio State, defending national champion. Jim Knowles, we've been singing this guy's praises since he was at Oklahoma State. I think he's one of the best DCs in the country. So when you look at the way the team's constructed from a coaching standpoint, it's fantastic. It doesn't get any better than that at the OC DC level, right? You look at the roster. I mean, they have two of the best running backs in the country. They may have the best running back tandem in the country, except for maybe the team we'll talk about last today in Notre Dame. But you look at Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. I mean, again, this tandem is ridiculous. It reminds me of last year's Ohio State team, right? When they had Quinshawn Jenkins and Travion Henderson, right? They had two legitimate running backs. When one got tired, the other one come in. You don't really miss a beat. So I like the way they constructed the roster from that point. Receivers. Last year, we talked about how this was going to be their downfall. They had no real talent out there. Well, they addressed that in the portal. They brought in Kyron Hudson from SC, who I kind of like. Trevor Pena from Syracuse, who I liked a lot. I thought he was a dog over there. That should be a really, really good haul for them. Now, they needed to replace Tyler Warren. Looks like they're going to do it with the receivers, not so much tight end this year, because he was amazing for them. That's going to be a big drop-off. But the receivers they brought in should help offset that, or at least mitigate the loss of Tyler Warren. Offensive line should be good. Defense full of playmakers as always. Denai Dennis Sutton will probably be an NFL guy, first-round pick. He's a stud. They bring back talent every single position on defense. The roster is really, really good. They bring back a lot of players, guys. That's the key thing with Penn State. Brought back a lot of good talent. And that's exactly why I'm going under 10.5, because they brought back the two people they could not afford to bring back. They brought back Drew Aller, and they brought back James Franklin. I don't care. I'm not falling for this anymore. I've been a part of this for 4 or 5 years now. I don't know. They cost me money every single time, dude. In a big game, you cannot trust Drew Aller. You cannot trust James Franklin. The only time we've seen Drew Aller play well in a big game was the Big Ten National Championship game last year against Oregon. And I'll admit it, he played fantastic. He balled out. I think we all remember that game, right? He looked amazing. That was the quarterback we expect to see Drew Aller every single week, okay? He played his ass off in that game. And guess what? They lost. It still wasn't even enough. Like, they didn't beat Oregon in that game. So I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to do it, okay? James Franklin needs to win legitimate games to save his job this season. I'm sorry. For the money that's being pumped into this program, for the expectations that are set, for the roster they have year in, year out, and the coaches they have year in, year out, you need more results, okay? I mean, look at the team last year. Yeah, they won. They made the CFP. But the 4 best teams they played from a talent perspective was Notre Dame, Oregon, Ohio State, and SC. And guess what? They lost all of them. Actually, they beat SC by 3 in a game they should have lost. But other than that, every big game they played, they lost. Why are we acting like last year was some renaissance for them, where they had some amazing seasons? They did exactly what Penn State does every single year. They only made the playoffs because it's an expanded field, right? That's the only reason they really got in. I mean, yeah, they made a deep run in the playoff, got to the semifinals. Come on. They beat Boise State, a group of 5 team, and they beat SMU, a team that its first year in a power conference. Not to mention their quarterback couldn't throw the ball forward. SMU. Don't fall for that false narrative that they finally got over the hump. Don't fall for this false narrative that Drew Aller is going to be a first-round pick. He's going to get a GM fired next year when someone takes him in the first round. I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm out. I'm not doing this again, okay? I hate when they play Ohio State. I hate when they play Michigan and we look for these angles to bet on Penn State. No, not this year. Take Ohio State. Because at the end of the day, guys, no matter how hard life is kicking the crap out of you, no matter how hard life is being on you, dude, at the end of the day, there's only one thing you can depend on in this conference, and that's Ohio State to show up. You can't bet on nobody else. Only Ohio State shows up in big games. That's it. Take Ohio State when they play Penn State. I'm telling you right now. I don't care what the spread is. I'm laying it. Under 10.5.
Out.
I don't care.
So yeah, I do. I do think one of these top 3 teams have to be out between Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. And I think Oregon's schedule is much easier. So I'm also out on Penn State. I know they're receiving a lot of love and hype, but I'm out. I don't think they get in this year. I think they lose 2 games. They don't get in the title game, and that's not going to be enough for them to get in. they might even lose 3 games. But yeah, I'm out on Penn State because I think Ohio State and Oregon will get in. And speaking of Oregon, let's move over to them. Big T, go ahead and break down the Ducks for us.
Yeah, I also just want to say real quick, it's going to hurt real bad. It's going to hurt real bad when we all bet Penn State again, because I'm telling you right now, we're all going to do it. Oh, I know we will.
That movie.
I promise you right now, I'm making a promise on this podcast right now. I will not do that. I will not do it.
In that movie Draft Day, Jose's got a little sticky note right now saying it was always Ohio State. He's got it folded up, and he's going to look at it on the day they play Penn State.
No, see, listen. It used to be Penn State for us, right? It used to be Penn State until we all came to the dark side and started betting Ohio State. Why would we ever go back? Why would we ever go back, dude? It's so much fun betting on Ohio State, a team that actually plays for your dollar. If you think about it, like in the last, 20 years of our life, pretty much our entire lifetime, every single blue blood, right? Like USC, Texas, Notre Dame, Michigan, like LSU, all these blue bloods, they've all had up and down seasons, right? Like I remember a time when Texas was trash, right? When Notre Dame wasn't good, when USC wasn't good, and LSU wasn't good, Michigan wasn't good. We can all remember that. The only team that's a blue blood that's been good every single year is Ohio State. I can't remember a time they were bad. Can you guys? Like, this team is always good. So I'm done with Penn State. I'm off their train. I'm on Ohio State. They're good every year. Take Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm also out on Penn State making the playoffs myself. Big T, go ahead and break down Oregon for us, in or out, and how are they going to be this year?
I'm going to take the under on Oregon this year. And here's why. It's going to be Dante Moore in starting for Oregon this year. I know he didn't play last year, but he got to sit and hopefully got to learn some things. And I know his freshman year he was in a shit situation in UCLA. I'll give it to him, but he was in a really bad situation. So, like, I'm optimistic about him coming into Oregon and playing this year. Now, I have too many questions for me to say that they're going to win 11 games with their roster. No more Evan Stewart. Evan Stewart won't be playing for them this year, so I'm kind of curious as to who he's going to throw the ball around to. And if you remember last year, Oregon started off slow, like really slow. They were having a lot of troubles up front, and it took them a while to get it going. And if they start with that same kind of slow pace to start the year off, somebody's going to get them, because I think last year's team was a little more talented than what they are this year. So for that reason, I can't say that this team's going to win 11 games and go over their win total. There's just no way. Would it surprise me if they made the playoff? No, but I don't think they will either, to be honest with you.
So you're out on them for the playoffs?
I'm out on them.
Jose?
I'm out.
I'm in on Oregon. I think their schedule is a little too easy. I'm a big fan of the running back they got, Mekhi Hughes. I think it's going to be enough to take the pressure off, and the schedule's pretty easy. So I'm in. So I have Ohio State and Oregon in so far as 2 of the Big Ten teams. I think 4 will get in, personally. But, yeah, let's move over on to Michigan, number 1 quarterback, number 1 recruit. Bryce Underwood comes in. I like Michigan this year. They answered their one biggest need at quarterback. They brought in Bryce Underwood, and not only that, but they brought in a veteran and Micah Keene from Fresno State to kind of help mentor him or even be the starter. Offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey, he's going to kind of transition this offense from a run heavy to kind of help Bryce Underwood succeed, in my opinion. They did lose some key players on the defense like Josiah Stewart, Will Johnson, and Mason Graham. But I think this is kind of a plug-and-play defense. Wink Martindale, NFL tested scheme stability. I think they'll be just fine on the defensive side of the ball. We kind of saw that last year, beating Alabama in that bowl game. I think they'll be just fine. And the schedule is a lot more forgiving this year for Michigan. I'm gonna pull it up real quick here. But when I was looking at it, it was really fairly easy. That Michigan at Oklahoma game is going to be a really big one for me. And then going to Nebraska will be big. But other than that, they get Ohio State at home. So I think that we really could see Michigan go 10-2 here. and make the college football playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten. I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship, but I do think Michigan can get in this year with the schedule they have. I think they can achieve that 10 wins. I do believe in Underwood. I think he's a heck of a quarterback, a heck of an athlete, and I think that the biggest thing for them was bringing in Mikey Keene as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped that game to Oklahoma. At Oklahoma, that will kind of be a tough game on the road, especially early in the season like that for Underwood. But yeah, Michigan, they still sit behind Ohio State for me and Oregon. They're kind of right there with Penn State, in my opinion. But it's not a huge difference. And yeah, I think they're in the playoffs. I like this team a lot. They addressed what they needed, and they have the talent to do it on both sides of the ball to at least get into the playoffs. So I'm in. I think they're in. But they're not going to be in the Big Ten title game or the Big Ten or win the national championship. But I do think they make the playoffs.
I mean, if they got in, I wouldn't be like super surprised.
Yeah.
I'm 50-50 on this team. I have no like real strong lean either way.
Yeah.
I mean, the offense literally can't be any worse than what it was last year. Like they could not throw the ball forward. It was embarrassing to see not only to see a power forward school do it, but like a school as historic as Michigan, like not have the capability to throw the ball forward was really embarrassing. So yeah, I mean, if as much as I want to sit here and praise Ohio State too, like you can never count Michigan out of any game because last year was the year Ohio State should have beat the crap out of Michigan, and they won somehow. Might have been the biggest upset of the year. Maybe not by point spread, but just by sheer shock. Like I cannot believe Michigan won that game. Yeah. So I have no idea what this team. I'm curious to see how it is, how they play out. They got a good early test against Oklahoma, so once we see that game, I think we'll have a really good idea or a better understanding where Michigan's headed. So no play for me, but I mean I guess I'll put him in.
Tyler, anything?
I'm out. Not heavy, just
yeah. I get it. Rookie quarterback, you just don't really know what you're going to get. So I get it. Let's move over to Jose's team, USC Trojans. Let him kind of give us a breakdown on them, what they got going on, and if they're going to be in or out.
I mean, look, this is my team. So obviously take this with a grain of salt, whatever I say, because I may be a little biased, but I'm going to try to get the bias out of it and just break it down for what it is. USC has the talent to not only compete in the Big Ten, but really just to win the conference. I think so. I'll start with the defense first because I think it's the most important aspect of USC this season because we already know how the offense more or less is going to be. Like defensively, 2 years ago, they were the worst defense in the country. Like they were literally one of the worst defenses in the country. And they hired D'Anton Lynn in the offseason from UCLA, comes across the city. And immediately, like you see legitimate results. He's elevated this USC defense from being one of the worst. How many teams are in this Division I? 100 and something. Whatever the number is, they were like in the bottom 10. They got elevated to the top 50, which is not like amazing in the grand scheme of things, but to get that big of a jump from one year to the next, that's pretty impressive. And I think this defense can improve even more. Like I think they could be top 25-ish, which if they do finish top 25-ish on defense, then yeah, this team will compete in the Big Ten for sure because their offense is legitimate. But sticking on the defense real quick, like I think for me, the biggest problem was their defensive line. Like they relied on guys like Bear Alexander to come in and play well. He didn't even finish the season now. He got dismissed. I think he's at Oregon now. They had so many players on that defense that they had high hopes for that just didn't live up to their expectations. They had someone like Anthony Lucas, who was a 5-star recruit, transfer from A&M. He was supposed to be one of the best guys in the defensive line, but he got injured early in the season. He didn't play pretty much the entire year. But they addressed those needs. He comes back, obviously. You bring in someone like Keyshawn Silver from who I think was at Kentucky and then North Carolina. He was a 5-star player, defensive lineman. You bring in Jakeem Stewart. He's a 5-star defensive lineman in this current recruiting cycle. He's a true freshman. Maybe won't have a big role, but still, he'd be good enough to attack the quarterback in certain situations. So they addressed their biggest need, which was defensive line. Secondary should be all right. Still not sold on it either, but it should be better than what it was last year. But you get consistent pressure, get consistent havoc with that defensive line. They're going to be great, and that's the D'Anton Lynn specialty. If you give him a great defensive line, he will construct a top 25 defense. Absolutely. So if they finish with the top 25 defense, they'll go over the 7.5 pretty easily, in my opinion. Keep in mind, they were one of the only teams last year in the country to have a fourth quarter lead in every game. And they were the only team to not win, I think they only won one of those games in which they held a lead in the fourth quarter, which was ridiculous. Like, this team had a chance. If they could close the game out, they could have been, a top 25 team absolutely by the end of the year. So keep that in mind. Offensively, I'll get into it real quick. They probably have the second best receiving duo in the Big Ten in Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. I think both these guys are NFL players. I would put them number one because I think that they're better collectively than Ohio State because they really just have Jeremiah Smith. But because I respect him so much, I'll keep Ohio State as the best wide receiver tandem in the Big Ten. But still, USC's receivers nothing to laugh at. Quarterback, I guess, is the biggest question, which is weird to say in a Lincoln Riley offense. But I'm going to give Lincoln Riley the benefit of the doubt here and just say he's going to put together a pretty good game plan for Jayden Maiava. He's talented. I just don't know if he's as talented as the quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley is used to coaching. But he must be okay with them because he didn't bring in nobody from the portal. So, he must be fine. Look, it comes down to defense. If they can improve even more, they're going to go over the 7.5, and I don't mind the 40-1 to win this conference either. If you could find that number out there, I think I saw it somewhere. So maybe I'm being biased, but I do think this team has talent, and if it comes together perfectly, they can compete in this conference, potentially win it. At least get to the Big Ten title game. So I'm gonna go over 7.5 for SC.
In or out?
I'm gonna say out, but they're gonna be close. I think like 9-3, but they'll be out.
Yeah, I agree there with Lincoln Riley not bringing anyone in from the portal. He must really have faith in Maiava to get it done with that offense. So, Big T, you got anything you want to add real quick?
I'm going to tell you, breaking down our favorite teams, there's going to be a much different breakdown for mine.
Don't get it wrong. I'm definitely on the hopium right now, but yeah.
Next week that you'll see me break down Georgia, which is my actual team, and
Tennessee.
Tyler's
down the balls.
Tyler's team is Arkansas. I'm gonna go ahead and do Iowa here. Let Jose take a quick breather. Let's get into Iowa. Cade McNamara leaves, comes to my East Tennessee State University Buccaneers to be the quarterback. So we're screwed. We're
I didn't even know he was still playing.
Yeah, he's at ETSU where I went to college. So he's over here now playing quarterback, and there's a lot of hype, and I don't know why, but whatever. But who they do bring in is Mark Gronowski from South Dakota State. Iowa does. He's a dual threat, potential to stretch the defense, can use his legs. This reminds me of a lot of when Minnesota brought in their quarterback last year from FCS.
Max Brosmer?
Yeah, Brosmer. Yeah. And we kind of saw how that worked out. I was high on Brosmer, but he just really didn't get it. He didn't click quick enough and fast enough to do much with Minnesota. They do lose Caleb Johnson, but they return Kamari Moulton and Patterson. So they got a pretty good duo back there. They returned 3 senior starters, including center Logan Jones. So they got some veteran stability. They'll be able to run the ball. Potential breakout receiver I have down here for Reese Vanderzee. This is just a weird stat to read, but it could be the first Hawkeye since 2019 to exceed 420 receiving yards in a season.
Jesus, that's crazy.
Anyways, elite defense, though. They did lose a lot on the defense, but this is another defense, in my opinion, that's a plug and play. Iowa always has a good defense. The defensive line still remains anchored. The linebacker and secondary depth are the main concerns. But yeah, I think that, with the stability on the defensive side of the ball, they'll be just fine. They do have a tough schedule, though. They have key road tests at Iowa State, USC, and Oregon. But they also have manageable opponents in Albany, UMass, Minnesota. So, I think that Gronowski, it's kind of going to be like a Minnesota situation last year. They're going to win some. They're going to lose some. He's got to adapt quickly to fulfill the upside, and that's just hard to believe that's going to happen in an Iowa offense for me. You also got to replace Caleb Johnson in the backfield. I think they're going to have to win the close ones. They're going to have to stay in some of these games. This is one of those teams that I think they're at that 7-8 win mark maybe. and a week-to-week betting basis out of the playoffs. I have one more Big Ten team I think we'll get in, and I'll get into those. But yeah, I think they are out. So
what do we got to do to get Iowa a quarterback, bro?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, to be fair, like this is one of the best FCS quarterbacks like of all time. They say.
Well, I agree, but I mean, the past 2 years, like they had a quarterback go to fucking Utah Tech after his 1 year at Iowa, and then McNamara last year go from Iowa to ETSU. It's like,
don't shit on ETSU, bro.
I ain't shitting on ETSU. I'm just saying, like, come on.
I mean, the
man.
realistic answer to your question is it's got to be Kirk Ferentz. He's the common denominator here, right? Like,
yes.
I mean, like it's his way of recruiting. It's just the way he places like the emphasis on the position. It must be. I mean, he's the only guy. It's the only constant of Iowa the last, its entire history of the program is that Kirk Ferentz has been coaching it.
Brandon Keith says just take them out of Iowa.
But the thing is, like, they have freaking good teams though. Like last year, like they were returning like 10 out of 11 on defense.
They need to do is get them some receivers. Apparently,
that's what I mean. Just like have a receiver or two in Caleb Johnson last year and a competent quarterback who can throw the ball.
Yeah,
like come on, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's just a mediocre year, and we'll be good to bet on them on a week-to-week basis. Let's head over to Illinois, a team that a lot of people are hype on this year. Jose, go ahead and tell us what you think about Illinois.
I think we all should give Brett Bielema some respect, guys, because I know for myself, like when he got hired, I thought it was a terrible hire. I thought he was washed. I thought he was cooked. I know he came from Tyler's Arkansas Hogs. I thought he was just, a shell of what he could have been. I didn't think he was a guy for the job. But ultimately, he proved me wrong. He's 3 years there. I think he's like 18. I don't know what his record is, but I think he's like 500. But just the way the seasons have gone, I think I'm pretty impressed with the way he's coached. Look, he won 10 games last year, Illinois, which is kind of hard to do there. He sent guys to the NFL. Their defense really impressed me. Overall, I just think that he's done a pretty damn good job, especially in this most recent season. Defense, for what it's worth, should be still pretty damn good this year. Excited to watch them play. I think it was like week 2 or 3 against Kansas last year where they really showed me that this team was legit when they handled Jalen Daniels. Now, obviously, Kansas wasn't as good as we thought they would be, but still, they played pretty damn well against the Jayhawks. Offensively, they bring back Luke Altmaier, quarterback. I'll be honest with you, I'm not his biggest fan. I think he's okay. But I think for him to be successful, you need the necessary pieces around him to make him look good. And he had that last year, right? Like he had Pat Bryant, who went to the NFL. He had Zachary Franklin, who went to the NFL. Like those were 2 legitimate receivers at Illinois that they don't really get too often, right? You think of Illinois, you don't really think of wide receiver talent. They had it last year. They had 2 guys that are going to be playing on Sundays. And that really is what I thought was the key to their season because, like I said, Luke Altmaier, not his biggest fan. And how do you make an average quarterback look really good? You surround him with great weapons, and that's what Illinois did. I mean, they brought in players like Hudson Clement from West Virginia. I like him a lot, actually. I thought he was pretty good last year at the Mountaineers. But it's going to be hard for him to replicate that success they had last season. I just think big picture, guys, you have to like understand like water's eventually going to find its level, right? And like this team last year, they went 5-0 in 1-score games. That's pretty damn hard to do. They won 10 games despite getting outgained on the season. Let me say that again. They won 10 games, but if you look at their total yardage on the season, they were outgained. I don't even think that's possible. Like I didn't know that was possible for you to win double-digit games and yet have finished with a negative yard difference. That's almost like ridiculous to believe. But yeah, that's what they did. So I just think regression is coming. Again, they had a storybook season last year, got a lot of breaks, and again, the receivers they had, I thought, really stole the show. We talked about early in the season too how the receivers really stepped up for them as we were breaking them down week by week. Again, not Luke Altmaier's biggest fan. I do respect Bielema for what he's done there, and I guess he proves me wrong, but I'm going to go under 8.5. I just think there's way too much steam on this team coming into the season. You're paying a premium based on what they did last year, and they just don't have last year's team. Fun to watch, but I'm going to go under 8.5.
Yeah, I think we do see some regression this year. I'm also not big on Altmaier myself, so yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with Jose here. Tyler, you got anything you want to add real quick?
No, I agree 100%. I think that team last year was pretty fucking good, to be honest with you. But
yeah. Christopher Peck in the chat says Michigan's going to win this year, the Big Ten. So we'll have to see. And that's who I'm rolling with to be maybe a surprise. Let's head over to Nebraska here. Dylan Raiola and company. My boy Big T, I know he kind of likes this team, and let's let him tell us why he likes this team.
Yeah, I'm going to buy in. I'm going to buy into Nebraska, and here's why. Nebraska has been one of those teams for me, not necessarily on the Penn State level, but on a tier below Penn State level of, I swear on my life, I will never bet in favor of this team ever again. I got sick of it. I got tired of Jeff Sims spiking the ball, throwing the ball to the other team. I just got tired of betting on Nebraska. 1-score losses every week, still not covering, pissed me off. And then here we are again. I'm going to be betting on Penn State and Nebraska again this year. So we'll see how
You're
this
not.
goes.
You're not betting on Penn State.
Dog, I will make you a bet right now when it comes around for us to be able to bet on Penn State. I promise you we're going to bet on Penn State.
We'll discuss that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Because if we don't, then Penn State's going to win. So maybe we don't. Maybe we just.
I'm just going to be waiting for that text in the group. Penn State ? From Jose.
I'll tell you it's going to come. But no, here's why I'm going to buy it on this team. They have progressed over the past couple of years. A 5-win team a couple of years ago, 6-win team last year. I know Dylan, he struggled at times. He turned the ball over a lot, but I mean, he's a true freshman. So I'm gonna give it to growing pains for a true freshman. And I thought they started to click a little bit better when Dana Holgorsen fully took over the offense really late in the year. And so that's part of the reason why I'm really going to buy into this offense is because he got a few games with him last year and he's getting the full offseason. He's going to get the full year with him this year. And I like Dana Holgorsen and his offense. So I think they're going to be good. They went and hit some stuff in the portal that they really needed to hit. They returned 3 of the 5 up front, and then they went and got Elijah Pritchett from offensive tackle from Alabama, and then they went and got Rocco Spindler from Notre Dame to really shore up that offensive line. So I thought that was 2 huge gets for them up front because I thought Dylan did take some shots last year up front. So for me, that's two huge gets for them. They returned Emmett Johnson at running back. He's not anything special, serviceable running back. He's a good player, but he's not going to just jump off the screen at you. And then at wide receiver, they went and got Dane Key from Kentucky. So I thought that was a big piece that he's not going to, go insane for you, but he'll be consistent. He's a good ball player, and he'll get open. And I'm really excited to see how Dana puts him in his offense because I think the thing with Dana Holgorsen is he can scheme open a lot of people. So I'm curious to see that kind of next step that the offense takes. Here's the thing that worries me about Nebraska, though, is their defense. I'm very, very, very concerned on this defense to really keep me from buying in more. Tony White's gone to Florida State. And a lot of their defense is gone. They only return 3 or 4 on the defensive side of the ball, which really, really concerns me. They did go hit some guys in the portal that they needed. Deshaun McCullough from OU linebacker I thought was pretty good. He's at Indiana before that. I think he's a pretty good player. Williams Nawari from Mizzou, the D lineman. I think it's going to be pretty good for them, and they returned their other 2 defensive tackles. So at least in the D tackle, position, they'll be okay, and I think they'll be okay at DBs, linebackers. Depth wise is kind of a big question mark for me. But Matt Rule year three, and historically has been special. Look what he did at Temple. Look what he did at Baylor. I mean, Temple was an absolute dumpster fire of a dump, and had them win 10 or 11 games. So I'm going to buy in on Matt Rule year 3. Dana Holgorsen gets a full year with Raiola, and I thought they got some pretty good pickups on the offensive side of the ball in the portal. So I'm going to go over 7.5.
Yeah, I'm with Tyler here. I don't think they're in the playoffs, but I am on the over here. Matt Rule in year 3 is usually pretty good, and I think Dylan can take some more progression here and take more control of this offense. So, yeah, I'm with Tyler on this one. I like that play. Jose?
Yeah, one of the names you didn't mention, Tyler, that's not at Nebraska anymore is Ty Robinson. He was the defensive end. He was a dog.
Yeah.
He didn't make any all Big Ten teams, which I was kind of surprised. They don't look consistent, but I thought he was a dog. It's going to be a big guy to miss or have to replace this offseason. Raiola's got to get more consistent with his footwork, guys, because he is very lazy with that. Now, that's an easy fix, though. That could easily be fixed with, just repetition and practice. So I'm not too concerned from there as long as he's dedicated, which I think he is. But if you had to fix something with a quarterback, I would say his footwork might be one of the first things you point out, because again, that's just repetition, really, and discipline. Dane Key, I thought was a pretty good pickup. I thought he was better than Berrien Brown at Kentucky, anyways. So overall, I think that this team has a chance to be good. But yeah, like Tyler said, betting on Nebraska to do anything, that's always that's a damn near suicide attempt, because they never ever live up to their hype. But
do they win more? Do they win more than 7 games?
Do they win more than 7 games? Because I respect Matt Rule so much, I'm gonna say yes. But Raiola has to get better. Like we're gonna chalk a lot of stuff up to freshman mistakes, but he's got to get better, guys. Because towards the end of the last season, dude, he was not playing all that well. At least at some points in the season, he really did not look that good.
Yeah.
But I'll go over just for the sake of the podcast.
All right, cool. All right, go ahead, T.
Out of those 6 games that they lost last year, too, 5 out of the 6 were 1-score games. So
no, I know, but no, go ahead, Tyler. Sorry.
No, I'm saying, like, I agree with you. Like, he's got to clean, the turnovers up, and he's got to be able to, his decision making, he's got to be able to clean that up, which I think, being with Holgorsen for a full offseason and everything, I think he can really get that cleaned up. So, but I agree with you 100%. Yeah, if he doesn't clean that up, they're kind of screwed. But yeah. I think he's got the ability to
just to talk on that point that you bring up, and it's true. Like they lost what was it, 5 1-score games you said last year? But that's every year.
I know.
Like that's every year with Nebraska. At some point we can't just point to that and say, oh, eventually water's gonna find something. No, like this is a systematic problem within the school. Like they need to figure this out. Like I don't know where this stems from, but when you're doing this every single year, it's no longer an outlier. That's just the norm. Like if it's a close game, you just have to chalk it up to Nebraska losing until they prove us otherwise, and that's on them. And nobody can fix that but themselves.
Yeah. All right. Let's head over to the great state of Indiana. Jose's favorite coach in college football, Curt Cignetti. Jose, can they repeat the magic they had last year? What do you think about this team?
All right. Let me take a deep breath. All right. I want to give a big shout out to Curt Cignetti. Out of all the guys in college football, like he may be my guy, and I have a lot of guys. He's up there. He's in the running to be my guy, because last season I was driving this Indiana in the offseason. I was driving this Indiana train. I was captain of the ship. I was conductor. Whatever you want to say, it was me. I love this team going into the season, and he delivered for me, for all of us, really. Look, let's put some things into perspective real quick. Well, let me start before that, actually. What I love most about Curt Cignetti is that he talks his shit. He is not afraid to run his mouth. And we need more of that in college football, okay? I don't care. It makes the games more entertaining. It makes you want to tune in. He talks his shit. Good for him. He won 10 games, okay? People are going to be quick to point out, oh, well, they lost the 2 best teams they played against, Ohio State and Notre Dame. First of all, those teams play for the national championship. So if you're going to lose to any 2 teams, you would want to lose to those 2 teams. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Second of all, this is not Penn State, okay? This is not Michigan. This is Indiana, okay? So if they're losing to Ohio State and Notre Dame, believe those are only 2 games they're losing. I'm telling you right now, Indiana fans will take that in a heartbeat, okay? This is not Penn State, like I just said, okay, where they lose to them all the time and it's a big deal. This is the Hoosiers. Let's put things in a perspective, okay? It was fine what he did last year. It was an amazing season. I'm sure every Hoosier fan in the world would sign up for a season like that 10 times out of 10. You just can't convince me otherwise, okay? Okay, let's talk about this year's team, okay? Because I feel like I'm going a little crazy because a lot of people are down on this team this year, and I just don't really understand why. Now, I know Curtis Work is gone, and from what we understand now, it looked like he played last year on a torn ACL. If you believe that, I'm not really sure if that's possible, but it seems like he did. Additionally, he had like a bump shoulder for majority of the year. He wasn't healthy, long story short, and he still played amazing, okay? But he's gone, and you bring in Fernando Mendoza from Cal. Look, I'll be honest with you. When I looked in the portal rankings, he was like a 4-star. I thought he should have been a 5-star. I loved what he did at Cal. I thought he was a fantastic quarterback, given the weapons he had around him when he had none, except for Jaden Knott, who's running back. But as far as receivers and tight ends, he had no weapons whatsoever. He had one of the worst offensive lines, and I still thought he played fantastic, led him to a bowl game. Big kid, 6'5", 220-something pounds. I think he's going to be an NFL guy. In fact, if you look at some new NFL mock drafts, he's going in the first round, late first round. I think he has potential to rise up. I love his game. I love the way he plays quarterback. I thought that was an amazing get to replace Curtis Work. If anything, I think it's better than Curtis Work. You still have Elijah Surratt. who's one of the most underrated receivers in the country. He was a dog last year at Indiana. If anybody didn't watch this team, he put up amazing numbers coming over from James Madison with Chris Signetti. If he replicates that with Mendoza, which I think he easily can, that might be the best, quarterback wide receiver tandem in the Big Ten. Maybe bar Jeremiah Smith, Jillian saying, but that's how good they could be. You bring in guys like Omar Cooper from the portal, who I like a lot. EJ Williams, a former top 50 recruit in the country, to play wide receiver. A lot of potential, guys. A lot of potential with this offense. Defensively, they have a lot talent all over. D'Angelo Pons is a lockdown corner. He's first team All Big Ten. Aiden Fisher, the starting linebacker, he's first team All Big Ten. I think led the Big Ten in tackles last year, actually. Defensive line added some depth there, which is important. I don't know. 8.5 games just seems low for me. This team can absolutely win 9 or 10. I'm super high on them. I think they upgraded at quarterback. You give Signetti another year with this roster. And again, the additions they made and the players they retained, for the most part, they didn't lose all that much. I'm going to go over 8.5. I love this team. I don't know what the odds are, John. Maybe you can find it to make the playoff, but I think it's worth a number. If it's like 15-1, 20-1 or higher, I would say it's absolutely worth a stab because I just don't really see that much of a drop-off from last year's team to this year's team. If anything, I think it's better.
Indiana to make the playoffs is plus 500.
Wow, I thought it was going to be a lot higher than that. Maybe not. But even still, I think this team has legitimate chance to make the CFP. Just based on the players they're returning. So I'm all in. I have no problem backing Curt Signetti again. I'll do it again. I'll do it every year if I can. For as long as he coaches. Over 8.5 to make the playoff. Bloomington, get ready for another great year because your basketball team sure as shit ain't doing it. So enjoy the football season.
Yeah, great coach. I thought Mendoza was the best. He might have been, but the best quarterback in the portal. So yeah, I agree here. Surratt's back, good defense. Yeah, I think they can definitely hit the over on the win total and maybe sneak into the playoffs. We'll have to see. Big T, you got anything you want to add real quick?
No.
All right, cool. I'm going to head over to Washington Huskies here. A team that I have heard a lot of hype from, a sleeper, a dark horse to make the playoffs. And I just personally, I could not see it. I thought that this team, the reason this team succeeded so well was because of Kalen DeBoer when he was there. And but yeah, they have a young quarterback in Dedmon Williams Jr. He's just doesn't have a ton of experience. Completed 78% of his passes, 944 yards, 8 touchdowns and a pick. I mean, I think that they need help on the defense. I think their offensive line's got to protect better. I think they need a consistent rushing attack, and I just don't think that they're going to have that this year, especially in the secondary and the pass rush. I think they're going to struggle to get pressure. And anyone they play, they're going to have the opportunity to get open, make plays on this team. They also have to play Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan to even be in the playoff discussion or the Big Ten title game. So yeah, I am lower on this team just for the fact of the young quarterback, the new defensive coordinator, a lot of kind of pieces they have to fill in. So and yeah, I think I hate a young quarterback in a system that is not going to have good protection. And I think that is going to be a problem with this Washington team. The protection isn't going to hold up. So yeah, I'm down on this team. I think they win maybe 6-7 games. I don't know. I just see a lot of people talking about how Washington's going to make the playoffs this year, and I just can't see it personally. Anybody got anything they really want to say about Washington?
Tyler?
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
I like Jedd Fisch first and foremost. I think he's a great coach. So, I'll never really have too much bad to say about a Jedd Fisch team. I think there's not a lot of talent here. I wish they would have gotten more out of the portal. From a coordinator standpoint, I like the hire of Ryan Walters. He was a Purdue head coach last year. Obviously, Purdue sucked ass last year, but as a DC, I think he's much, much better off. I like what he can do from that perspective. So I expect somewhat of a leap from Washington on defensive side of the ball. Jonah Coleman comes back at running back. That's big for them because he really is a good player. I don't know, like Damon Williams. Like the thing with him is that I was like reading the other day. I listened to a podcast, and somebody had him as like the number 3 quarterback in this conference. which it sounds ridiculous, right? But at the same time, like, who would you put over him? Like Drew Aller, I guess, because you have to. And then I started thinking about the big picture. I was like, damn, the Big Ten quarterbacks kind of suck ass this year, guys. Like, who is really all that good in the Big Ten? Like, Julian's saying we think he's going to be good, but we haven't seen him take a single snap. So how could we really put him there? I don't know. Like,
there's a lot of questions at quarterback this year in this conference, and some of the people that are watching the podcast tonight have mentioned that. Julian saying, Bryce Underwood. We kind of have to see, what they're going to do and against these big boy defenses.
I mean, from what I saw of Damon Williams last season, like in the bowl game and the game, like I thought he was okay. Like I thought he was decent. I mean, I'm just saying, like I wanted to put it out there. Like, if you told me this quarterback was a top 3 quarterback in this country, in this conference, I guess I would have to believe you, just based on the limited game sample that I saw, and just because this conference in general is devoid of talent. So just food for thought as you guys bet the Big Ten this year. Just know that you're not betting on the best quarterbacks at all, because this conference really, really is lacking in that department as a whole. But yeah, I mean, back to the topic though. I'll go under on Washington too.
Yeah, and real quick, I'm going to go ahead and do Michigan State because this is the team that I do think has a chance to be a dark horse in this conference. I do like Michigan State a lot this year, and it starts with Aiden Childs. He comes into his second season as a starter, dual threat potential. The biggest thing for him is he has got to make better decisions, especially in crucial games. He is a high risk, high reward player. He's got to reduce the interceptions, play more efficiently, and this Spartan offense can become much more reliable. Freshman wide receiver Nick Marsh comes back after setting some school records. And they also added a bunch of experienced receivers in the portal. They brought in Elijah Tolliver from Sacramento State to help the ground game. So we'll have to kind of see how that pans out. Michigan State is a team that I used to think of as a kind of a bruiser team back, especially when they had Kenneth Walker. But they got to get the run game going to open it up for Childs a little bit and get the ball to Nick Marsh. The offensive line, which was once ranked near the bottom, is projected to improve. They have transfers stepping in at guard, center, and tackle. Top 50 defense is still intact. Defensive coordinator Joe Rossi keeps a defense that was top 50 nationally last year, especially strong against the run, with 4 of 6 top defensive linemen returning. And they bring in Grady Kelly from Florida State. They did lose several linebackers and secondary starters, but they added a bunch of transfer additions: Joshua Eaton, David Santiago. I think the schedule is pretty manageable for this team. They do have home games against Michigan and Penn State, but they have no matchup against Ohio State or Oregon this year. And their key road games will be USC, Nebraska, and Indiana. So, yeah, I think, if Childs can kind of cut his turnover rate down and be a little more reliable and be a little more smarter with the ball, the wide receivers, the running back on this team, and the offensive line can kind of help him spread the ball out and get things going. The defense is there. The offense has just got to get going. So if I had to pick a dark horse to make the playoffs, it would be Michigan State for me out of this conference. But yeah, I do think they go over on their win total, and I think they could easily hit 9 wins. So yeah, I'm pretty high on Michigan State this year. Anybody got anything they want to add?
Not really, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right. Let's head over to Minnesota. I believe you have Minnesota, Tyler?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like this Minnesota team. I really do. I thought their offense was pretty underwhelming last year, but I thought they had a really solid group on defense. I really was a big fan of their DBs last year in particular. I just thought they were really physical. And then they come down, they wrapped up, they tackle. I thought they were really good on the defensive side of the ball. They do get a new defense coordinator in Danny Collins this year, but he has been with the program since like 2019 or so. He's been around or 2017. So he's been around the program for a long time. So I think I'm going to go slightly over with this team. The only thing that kind of concerns me is they are starting a redshirt freshman at quarterback. but he's like 6'5", 230-pound guy. He's a big, solid guy from Arkansas. And so I'm curious to see how he plays. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. I don't know if it'll be this year, maybe next year, but I think he's got the frame and the size and the arm to really do it for Minnesota. I think their defense is always going to be pretty solid. Minnesota as a whole is always going to, be in that 6 to 8 game, 9 game range. That very rarely has PJ Fleck, had a really bad season. They returned Darius Taylor on the offensive side of the ball, who I thought was a really good running back for them. They returned 3 out of 5 up front on the offensive line. And then they returned 6 total on the offensive side of the ball. They get A.J. Turner coming in from Marshall at the running back spot. They get an offensive lineman, Marcellus Marshall from Central Florida, to come help shore up that offensive line, and an offensive tackle from Washington. They get Javon Tracy at receiver from Miami of Ohio, who was a really good receiver for them last year. He was a 900-yard guy. Malachi Coleman coming in from Nebraska. I think it's just going to come down to Drake Lindsey, what he can do at quarterback. But I think he can put it together, and they have a good run game to kind of help him out in times that he needs it. So I'm going to go over the 7.5. I kind of like this team. I like their character, and I like, they play their brand of football. And they're always going to be a tough, solid, physical team with a good defense and who can run the ball very well. And that's 2 things that also travel very well. So I'm going to go over 7.5.
Yeah, I also always find myself liking this Minnesota team and how they play ball and PJ Fleck. And it's another Big Ten team here where we're questioning the quarterback play and if it's going to be good enough to get some wins. But, yeah, I'm with Tyler here. I like this Minnesota team. I think that they could kind of do what they did last year. Maybe hopefully have a little more success than they had with Brosmer. So, but yeah, let's move over to the Badgers of Wisconsin. Jose, go ahead and break them down on why they will or will not succeed this year.
Let me just backtrack real quick, guys. I want to comment on Minnesota really quick. Yeah, this is my sleeper team. I really think Minnesota has a chance to be really, really good in this conference. If you would have put Max Brosmer on this year's roster, this team would have a legitimate chance to, to compete for a Big Ten championship. That's how high I am on this roster. They have probably the most underrated running back duo in the country, in Taylor and Turner. When A.J. Turner played at Marshall last season, every time I watched Marshall, which wasn't often, but when I did watch him, he jumped off the screen at me. I thought he was fantastic. It all comes down to the quarterback. But defensively, real quick, they have a safety, Coy Parrish. He was a true freshman last year. He was an absolute dog. He may have been one of the greatest freshmen I've seen, maybe besides Jeremiah Smith, just off last season. He's a future NFL guy, probably a first-round pick. If you don't know him, get familiar with him. He's fantastic, and he's going to lead this defense to even bigger heights this season, or even higher places this season. If Drake Lindsey can be anywhere close to as good as Max Brosmer, this Minnesota team will go over their win total with ease. I'm really, really high on that team. But to go from a team I'm high on to a team I'm low on, let's go to Wisconsin, the Badgers. I want to start this one off with a conversation because I'm curious to know, 2 things. Is Luke Fickell a good coach or a bad coach? And number 2, if he doesn't make a bowl this season, will he be fired?
Yes. He is one of the top coaches for me that I think is going to be gone after this year. That Wisconsin job will be open next year.
I don't think he'll make it through the year.
Yeah.
Is he a good coach? I mean, he took Cincinnati to the CFP.
He did, but I also think he caught lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah. I'm just curious to get your guys' opinion on that because I was really struggling. I'm not a Fickell guy either, and I'm just, but I have to give him some respect for taking Cincinnati there. But based on what we've seen out of Wisconsin so far, in his tenure, it's not been good, guys. It's been really, really bad. Look, let's talk about their schedule, okay? It is the toughest schedule you could find in college football this year. Let me actually, if you can pull it up, John, on the screen and just read it out.
Yeah.
Because it is as tough as it gets. I don't think there's a close second. I think this is by far the toughest schedule in the country. You want to read it out, John?
Yeah, here, I'll pull it up for you.
God dang.
It's bad. If you haven't seen it yet, be prepared. It's pretty bad.
I haven't really looked at it all that hard.
There you go.
I don't know. I can't see your screen. Can you read it out? Just
Miami, Ohio, Middle Tennessee. Then they go to Alabama. They play Maryland. They go to Michigan. They play Iowa. They play Ohio State. They play at Oregon, Washington. They play
Jesus.
at Indiana, at Minnesota, and they play Illinois.
That is as brutal as it gets. I'm telling you right now. Now, I want to if anyone listening to this podcast or anyone that knows college football from the past couple of years, I think it's really easy to draw connections between this team and the Gators team of last year, right? The Florida team. Because coming into the season last year, everybody was talking about how Florida had the toughest schedule in the country. They had a coach who was probably on his way out. And overall, you could just draw some really easy connections from Wisconsin to Florida, right? And I did as well. When I was breaking this team down, I thought about it, and I was like, well, I feel like we just had this exact same conversation with the Gators. But there's some key differences between this team and that Florida team last year. When we broke down Florida last year in the SEC breakdown, we all agreed that Florida has the talent to compete, but the schedule is just going to be too much. And obviously we were wrong. We all picked the under just due to the schedule, but the talent point was correct because they went over, right? And Billy Napier saved his job, and DJ Lagway came in and looked amazing. Okay, and now Florida is one of the trendy team to compete in the SEC this season. Just off one, that's how quickly your life can change just in one season. Okay, but you want to draw some similarities to the Florida team. That's where they end, because that Florida team had talent, they had a quarterback, they had direction. This Wisconsin team has none of that. Okay, because DJ Lagway is miles better than what Billy Edwards Jr. is. If you don't know him, he's a transfer from Maryland. He's okay, I guess. He was all right at Maryland. He wasn't very good. But I'm going to give him some, just whatever. He is what it is there. So, Lagway is miles better than Billy Edwards Jr. And again, just from a talent perspective as a whole, Florida was just leaps and bounds. They had 4 and 5 stars across the board. When you look at, just from the roster, the way it was constructed, Wisconsin, you don't get that. You get 2 and 3 stars. You got to coach them up, right? So Luke Fickell has his work cut out for him. If you want to compare it to Florida and say, oh, well, Florida had a hard schedule last year and they went over. Don't do that. That's what I tried to do, and then I sat here and thought about it. Billy Napier saved his job. I don't think Luke Fickell's going to save his job. I'm going to go under with Wisconsin just based off the schedule. Don't draw the similarities. The rosters are completely different. Under 5.5 Wisconsin.
Kurt Plays over in the comment section here says they did land a killer edge rusher in the portal.
No, and that's the thing with Wisconsin. Defensively, you're never really too concerned. And they have a great home field advantage, by the way, at Camp Randall. But you have to have some semblance of an offense to compete in this conference, especially with that side of the schedule, guys. And Billy Edwards Jr. is not going to lead. He's not going to command this offense. He's just not, And again, you need to overcome a schedule like that. You need serious talent. You need firepower, and you need it across the board, right? A player here, a player there is not going to be enough to change the outcome of the season from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I agree. I think Luke Fickell's gone. I think this team will underperform, and it's kind of sad to see what's happened to Wisconsin. This is going to be one of the big jobs that will be open next year, in my opinion. Tyler, you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's go over to UCLA Bruins, baby. Nico, I'm looking at you.
Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Who would have thought 1 year ago this was going to happen?
I picked you to win the Heisman, and you left because of offensive production, offensive system, and you go to UCLA. I ruined this man's career. I mean, what in the world? This team's going to be bad again, in my opinion. Only 45% of returning production, 37% on defense. They only have 2 players with 200-plus snaps returning from last year's defense. The entire defense is completely new, pretty much new transfers. Offensively, they do bring in Nico. Unproven consistency. Has chemistry problems, deep ball accuracy issues. I mean, I can't believe this guy was a candidate to win the Heisman last year. It's unbelievable.
Oh my God. He wasn't. You just forced him to be a candidate.
Look, the defense needs to rebuild. Quarterback and receiver, there's questions. I am low on this team again. They play Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, USC, Washington, and Utah. I don't think this team will get over that 5.5 win mark. I have them under. I know we were on their under last year. I'm on it again. They don't even have any FCS games. most likely, yeah. I mean, this says most likely scenario is a 5-7 season. Roster turnover, systematic flaws persist, and the offensive line and defense will underperform. Nico will struggle yet again. So yeah, I'm with that. I think you know, I think he could transfer again. I mean, after this year, I don't really.
Yeah.
I mean, in all seriousness, but yeah, I'm quite frankly, I'm just down on this team. I know it's not the best breakdown. There's not much to talk about here. This team as a whole is just completely new, other and utterly bad in my opinion. So yeah, I'm down on this team again.
I mean, like Nico. Sorry, you want to go?
No, go ahead. You're good.
Like Nico really is like the Polynesian Drew Aller, because like he's supposed to be good, and people talk about him like he's good, but then you watch him play, and we're like, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
Like we talked about it last year, like as Tennessee was playing like their first few games of the season, like they were winning all these games, but we're like, dude, Nico's not really all that good. Like he doesn't. Like,
Dylan Sampson was the
yeah, like that was the key to the offense was Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
But like we would sit here and watch and put it in our group chat, like, dude, Nico sucks. Like he's missing all of these throws. He can't read the defense. I don't see it with this guy. And
that Arkansas game was, I mean, it blew my mind. Brutal. Yeah.
The Alabama game. The Alabama game pissed me.
I don't know how they won that game.
Bad.
They won that. I have no idea how they won that. I mean, that's because they were going against Jalen Milroe, another quarterback who sucks. I think we all took Ohio State against Tennessee in the playoff, and we were like in a game where I think everybody was on Tennessee, and we were like, nah, let's take Ohio State. That was the easiest bet of the year. They beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, if Josh Heupel couldn't fix you, Nico, I don't think Deshaun Foster's going to fix you.
Yeah.
Deshaun Foster, count your days. You may be a dead man walking too.
Yeah, I agree. Oh. And to say the offensive system wasn't working at Tennessee is mind-blowing to me, because Josh Heupel is one of the best offensive minds in college football, in my opinion. So, but yeah. So now we got one more team we're going to break down tonight, and that is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who was in the national championship picture last year. We are going to be bringing on our good friend Brian Wood to break down his Notre Dame Irish and ask him some questions about what he expects from this year. So welcome in, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, for sure. I will get some Notre Dame odds up here for you, and I will go ahead and let you start talking about why or why not this team will make the playoffs and maybe even return to the national championship.
Look, and I don't want to come off like a homer. I'm obviously a big Notre Dame fan, but I really am high on this roster. And we'll start with the roster shakeup here. And we do see some massive departures from last year's season, namely, one of the best defensive back tandems in college football last year, and Benjamin Morrison, Xavier Watts. We lose two really incredible defensive tackles as well to the NFL, and Howard Cross III and Riley Mills. All of them very, very impactful players in making that national championship run. Ben Morrison a little less so, as he did depart the team with a hip injury around the midway point of the season. But I mean, we do bring in some really decent players out of the portal, namely a couple wide receivers and Will Pauling out of Wisconsin, and what we're expecting to be a real stud in Malachi Fields at a University of Virginia. We bring in a couple of defensive linemen, Elijah Hughes and Jared Dawson at a USC and Louisville, respectively. Another one that's possibly supposed to be a real stud in Jalen Stroman, safety out of Virginia Tech. And that one, again, really depends on health there. Bringing a tight end, Ty Washington out of Arkansas, a kicker, Noah Burnett at a UNC, and another defensive back in Devonta Smith from Alabama, who's supposed to be another real big addition to our secondary to start this year. We do now, however, lose 14 of the portal. I'm not going to name them all, but I think I'll name some of the bigger ones that either are going to teams that you guys have talked about today or are going to be highlighted throughout this series later on. We're going to name off Steve Angeli, Peanut Butter. He was a staple, backup quarterback for us, came in when it really mattered in a few situations and did a really good job for us. He was going to be relegated to QB3. So obviously, as a redshirt senior, you got to go find a place to start, and he deserves that. So he's going to wind up with the Syracuse Orange. Team that Jose mentioned earlier, the USC Trojans pick up a safety and a legacy player in Kennedy Urlacher, who figures to possibly be another starter for them, and he might be a dog. We're really high on him. We're really sad to lose him to the Trojans, but great player. We got interior lineman Pat Coogan going to the Hoosiers. Rocco Spindler going, as Tyler mentioned, to the Cornhuskers. We lose Sam Pendleton to the Tennessee Volunteers and defensive back Jaden Mickey to the Boise State Broncos, one of our future opponents this year. So definitely a bit of roster shakeup, but in my opinion, the offensive linemen that left, kind of role players. I don't think they were going to be starters this year. They would have found their self on the depth chart and, again, found themselves starting roles, and that's huge for them. But in terms of the quarterback room going into this year, we're really young and inexperienced. We're looking at a first-year starter either way, whether it be Kenny Minchey, who I did not expect to be here again. We mentioned Steve Angeli's departure, or legacy quarterback CJ Carr. Now, the talk about CJ Carr is he's got a hell of an arm, and he does have some mobility about him. He would probably have the best arm we've had since, they're talking Brady Quinn, Jimmy Clausen, and those guys could zip the football. So that's really high praise there. If Kenny Minchey winds up being the starter, he brings a similar build that we got out of Riley Leonard. He's really mobile. He can use his legs, but he also does possess a really strong arm. Where I worry is, again, this is a first-year starting situation. There's a lot of youth and experience, and I'm worried that we could possibly start off like we did offensively last year, where the quarterback play wasn't really exceptional, and it did not win us games. It kind of just was mediocre at times. We move on to the halfback room, and Jose mentioned it when you guys were talking about Penn State. This is easily the best halfback room in the nation, bar none, top to bottom. You start with Jeremiah Love. He's backed up by Jadarian Price, who, again, could be a starter for any freaking team in the nation, easily. The dude's a dog. He's backed up by Aeneas Williams, who we saw deep on this playoff run last year. He was incredible, showed his elusiveness and his receiving ability at the backfield. Really good player for us. And then you have Kedron Young, who you didn't see much of, but he has the propensity to be really good as well. They're deep, they're talented. They carried this team down the stretch. Jeremiah Love, even when he wasn't healthy, you saw what he did in that Penn State game. You saw what he did, at certain times, even in that Ohio State game. He wasn't able to do much down the stretch, but when he made plays, they counted. Against Indiana, 98 yards to the house on a bum knee. If this dude's healthy for an entire season, he's a dark horse Heisman candidate. He's my favorite to win the Heisman personally. Then we're going to move on to the wide receiving room, and this is a much improved unit for the Fighting Irish this year with the addition of Malachi Fields, Will Pauling from Wisconsin. You add some depth here. You already have Jaden Greathouse, Jordan Faison from last year. And then you add, we mentioned legacy players from Kennedy Urlacher. You add Elijah Burris and a junior here, Mr. Jerome Bettis Jr., to our receiving corps. So we bring on Plaxico's kid and Jerome's kid to a pretty now deep receiving core, and they look to see the field too. They're very hype players, 4-star wide receivers coming in, and we look to see what they can do. So that gives us more deep threats here, more ability to move the ball downfield. But conversely, the tight end room, not nearly as deep this year. We've already suffered an injury from Cooper Flanagan. I believe it was an Achilles injury. He was looking to see a lot of playing time this year. We do look to see Eli Raridan and Ty Washington take some decent playing time. I don't know nearly as much about Ty, as he did come from Arkansas. I don't know how he did in that offense last year. Tyler, do you remember how he did?
Nobody was good in our offense last year, dog.
Okay, fair enough. That's kind
fair.
of my worry
Fair
when you
point.
say that.
Fair point.
No, that's fair. So the tight end room is kind of a question mark here, and what is normally a pretty strong position for the Fighting Irish. So we look to see some new names emerge there, become playmakers. Offensive line for Notre Dame, kind of plug and play. We did lose a lot of players in the transfer portal, but the ones who remained, they're really good. Anthony Knapp looks to be our offensive left tackle. Dude was really good. He played in 15 of the 16 games last year as an undersized left tackle in terms of weight. He did really, really well. He gained size in the offseason. He gained more reps. He did his job last year, and we look to see what he can do. Now, on the right tackle position, we're looking to see the same thing from Emil Wagner. That kid stepped up really well last year. He is also looking to be a massive, massive key in that offensive line. When you look at the interior line, you've got some question marks now because, again, somebody we highlighted at the beginning of last season to be a huge playmaker on that offensive line for Notre Dame, he's fucking hurt again. Charles Jagus tore his pectoral, and he's looking to miss about the first month and a half of the season. And we'll get into that schedule later, but that is an inopportune time for somebody to be missing games for this Fighting Irish offense. We'll see, Billy Shrouth, who, again, if he can remain healthy, really good guard. and Ashton Craig returning at center. So the offensive line looks to be good. No seniors again for only like the second time, I think, in Notre Dame history, which will be back-to-back seasons now that we don't have a senior on that offensive line unit. If depth issues arise, we also did sign 5-star left tackle Will Black. Very hyped at the position. So again, if injuries arise, and they seem to always for this offensive line, he should get some playing time. If we look at the defensive line, return a lot of talent from injury from last year. We get Boubacar Traore back. And before he went down, he was leading the team in sacks. He was really, really good. He showed he was explosive, returning a fumble for a touchdown against Purdue. And he was fast. Like he escaped, like actually gained yardage on the people trying to gain on him. And they were, not shabby players. It's offensive players trying to catch up to him. You return Josh Burnham. Bryce Young's looking to be a starter this year, and he's extraordinarily hyped. Really athletic, lanky. I think he's like 6'5" at the D-lineman position. He's fast. He's strong. He's looking to do a lot of things here. And at the defensive tackle position, we've got some depth. We don't have Cross or Mills back, but, we're gaining Gabriel Rubio, who missed a significant time with injury, and he's a big size guy. 6'5", 315, prototypical like run stop defensive tackle. Like he's going to be good. He's going to make, interior linemen struggle to hold their blocks. We get Jason Anye, Jared Dawson, and Donovan Heinisch. And Heinisch is really good too. Bit undersized, but he's really good. Really able to make some noise back there. Dawson's looking to be our starting nose tackle. Heinisch would be our backup there. But, given the different sets that Notre Dame runs and defense, you're going to see a lot of different defensive line looks, whether it be 2, 3, 4-man sets. So you're looking to see some nose tackle, play from Jared Dawson. So a lot of depth there. You look at the linebackers, that's probably our best position right now. You're 5 deep at the middle linebacker position. A lot of 5-star kids coming in there. You're looking to see Jalen Sneed at the will. Drake Bowen and Kingston Viliamuasa at the mic, and those two are incredible. Drake Bowen was a stud last year. Made a lot of really good plays in the playoff run, regular season, real emotional leader. And you get Jaden Osbury, who's really underhyped on that defense. Really, really good player, quick, great pursuit, really good at reading the quarterback. And then we're just going to go to the secondary. And I mean, just like that running back room, tops in the nation. I mean, really good. Leonard Moore coming in on Benjamin Morrison's injury. Nobody really knowing what he can do. He takes that guy's spot and he runs with it. He led the nation in pass breakups coming in about week 5. That's an incredible stat. You come in week 5 with no reps and you lead the nation in pass breakups. That's an incredible man coverage, zone coverage stat. Like that kid is good. He's really good. And he's looking to be better this year. Christian Gray returns. And if he can, clean up some of his man coverage mistakes from last year, he got exposed badly against the Trojans during the majority of that game last year. Picked apart by Jaden Maeva, like easily. And, he had his play. He got to get back at the end of the game, but he got cooked. And, you see it in the national championship game. He got cooked by Jeremiah Smith. Position he shouldn't have been in, but it happened. But he's a good kid. You bring in Devonta Smith. That kid does wonders, on the defense for Bama. You add him to our nickel position there. He's going to be incredible. And then you look at our safety depth. It's incredible as well. You got Luke Talek, back there. You've got Adon Schuler, who is an absolute leader back there. About 740 snaps for that defense last year. And replacing Xavier Watts, 960 something snaps, incredible stat in itself. It's going to be tough to do, but the defense looks set to do it. So we're going to get to the schedule here, and this is where it gets really tough. We're favored by 2.5 against Miami. I do think we're going to win this game based on the running game and defense alone. I think, 2 new quarterbacks, 2 new systems here with likely CJ Carr versus Carson Beck. Beck's shown a propensity to commit turnovers, and the Irish defense is really good. Hard Rock Stadium's not known to be an intimidating home environment for away fans to go into. So I think we'll be able to operate pretty well, in terms of playing a top team. Then we have to go play A&M at home. Then we get Purdue on the road at Fayetteville and Arkansas. And I highlight that game as a potential, serious upset for this offense, because we saw, you highlighted what Nico did in Arkansas last year. First-year quarterback, hostile environment in Fayetteville, and it rattled him. He couldn't hit his passes. He couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. Could happen to us there. It's a potential upset that I'm flagging early. Then we get Boise State, NC State, Jose's Trojans. which again, not a sleeper game. If they continue to improve defensively and that offense can, be consistent, they're not to be slept on. They can easily beat us in that game. Second half of the season, not really much to look at. I know, there's some opinions about some of these teams that you guys are pretty high on, but Boston College, Navy, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and Stanford, and I think that's a pretty winnable stretch. I think we can go 5-0 during that stretch. I think the first half of games I listed, 6-2 to, or I'm sorry, 5-2 to 7-0. Anywhere in that range. I think 10-2 is easily a hittable mark. It's really what we do, against A&M, Miami in those first two games. Can we build some momentum, some rapport with the receivers and our new first-year quarterback, our transfer players, and go from there. I think we're in the playoffs. I think 11-1, 12-0 is possible. But it really is dependent on quarterback play going into the early parts, middle parts of that season, because that is a gauntlet in those first 6 games. I'll turn it over to y'all there. Like, what do y'all think?
Yeah, Notre Dame to make the playoffs is -190 here. I do think there's a little bit of value on not making the playoffs, and that's just for the simple fact that you stated is those first 2 games are super, super tough, especially for a new quarterback getting into the system here. We do see right here on the screen, Notre Dame is -2.5 favorites, -135 on the money line, playing at Miami here. I do like Miami just because Carson Beck does have experience. Although I'm not high on him, he does have experience. So this will be a game I look to bet. And then playing A&M, you do get them at home, but it's still going to be a tough game for them. The thing for me here that stands out for Notre Dame is not having that conference championship still hurts them. Yeah. And I could easily see them. We saw it last year. We saw the loss to Northern Illinois right out of nowhere. I could easily see that happening again this year, either at Arkansas or against USC, or a team that I'm really high on is Pittsburgh. I could definitely see them losing at Pittsburgh, or maybe even Navy. Navy's a team a lot of people have circled to be that G5 team to get in. So, in my opinion, Notre Dame has to be about perfect to get back into the playoffs personally. But yeah, if they can win one of those first games against Miami or Texas A&M, then yeah, they definitely have the path to get there. But that's the biggest question mark for me is the quarterback play. And, you got to perform against some of these teams that have a lot of upside, and these games are on the road. And
yeah, absolutely. Difficult road games.
Yeah. Jose, you got anything you want to
add? Do you want me to be brutally honest, or do you want me to sugarcoat it?
Guys? Be brutally honest, man. Like, I don't like bullshit.
I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't know what John's talking about, dude. I don't see how Miami beats Notre Dame. I'll be honest with you. I don't care they have CJ Carr. Carson Beck sucks ass. Okay, and what Brian talked about is true because I wrote down 3 different position groups where I think Notre Dame is the best in the country: running back, offensive line, and secondary. And to beat Notre Dame this season, you need to be able to throw the ball, which Carson Beck can't. Okay, then I look at the Week 2 game against Texas A&M. Marcel Reed can't throw the ball. Then they play against Arkansas. Taylor Green can't throw the ball.
It's very true.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to throw the ball to beat this secondary. That's how good they are. Like, they are that good, guys. As Brian alluded to, their offensive line is the best in the country. Like, I was breaking it down, and I was like, dude, like, where's the weakness on this one? Even without how do you pronounce his name?
Brian? Jagasaw.
If he comes back at 80% of what he can play at, that just makes this offensive line so much better. I think he came back last season in the playoffs, and he played like guard when he was supposed to be a left tackle, and he still did great. Like, there's just so much talent here. I have to give Marcus Freeman his flowers, guys. I was a big skeptic on him. The way he constructed a roster is exactly how you want to do it in college football, right? If you know you don't have a top-tier quarterback, you want to supplement him with either a damn good receivers or a damn good running game. And he gave him a damn good running game. He gave him a damn good offensive line to allow the quarterback to sit back and process defenses and read defenses, give him extra time in the pocket. And on top of that, you gave him a secondary that's going to be a ball-hawking secondary that's going to give him more chances, when they cause turnovers. And their defensive line is great as well. And they lost 2 of their defensive linemen early in the season. They get them both back. I actually have Notre Dame power rated as the second best team in the country behind Texas, just from a pure numbers perspective. I went through and I did the top 30 teams in the country. I had Texas 1, Notre Dame 2, Ohio State 3. Those are my top 3. So on any given field, the only team I would have favored over Notre Dame would be Texas, and not by much. And that's with CJ Carr at quarterback. Like, that's just how I'm not shitting on CJ Carr. He could be great. He could be bad. We don't know. Because of the question mark, it's hard to put a number value on that player, right? That's just the way it is until you see him play. But even despite the question mark at quarterback, the rest of the roster is so good, in my opinion, that it makes up for it. Even if CJ Carr goes out there and plays at 60% of what Riley Leonard played at, I think this team still makes the playoffs. I really, really like Notre Dame. They're approaching the Ohio State territory for me, whereas before, where we always used to bet against Ohio State, we would always try to find different spots, but Ohio State would always end up winning anyways. Mm-hmm. And then, like, last year, we finally jumped ship and said, we're just going to bet Ohio State, and they won every game we bet on them. Notre Dame's becoming that team for me. I'm looking at Miami, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, they're on the road. They got to play against Carson Beck. Could be tough. But Notre Dame's probably going to win that game. Then against A&M, could be tough. A&M has a good team, a lot of money in that team, Mike Elko, familiar with the team, obviously. Notre Dame's probably going to win that game. They're just going to win all these games because that's what they kind of do. They're approaching that Ohio State territory for me. I have this team as one of the best in the country. Maybe John and I are going to have some sort of friendly wager for that week 1 game against Miami. We'll have to discuss in the coming weeks. But I'm over with this team. I think this team is in the playoffs, and I would be kind of shocked if they didn't make it.
I do believe, Brian, you had mentioned to me earlier that this is one of the few teams this year that has the possibility of being favored in every game, if I was correct, right?
Yeah, I read a stat where the early predictions have 5 teams, and I think Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, I cannot remember the other 2 for the life of me, are pretty much favored to win all 12 of their. Yeah, Clemson, I think Clemson might be one of them as well. Favored to win all 12 of their regular season games.
Clemson's been
and I mean, by the same token, it's like, yeah, there are tough games on this schedule, but again, like Jose kind of just said, Marcus Freeman just kind of figured a way, after that Northern Illinois game to kind of get into his team's head, and they win games. Like, I don't know if he's on that Kirby Smart train where he's just telling them, like, yeah, everybody hates you, nobody thinks you can do it, like, we're mediocre, like, and just getting to them where they're really amped up. I don't care what it is, but he's got the juice now. And I hope it doesn't take a loss for us to really click into gear this year, but if he can get it rolling, let's go.
But that just adds to, like, how great Marcus Freeman was, because it would have been so easy to just pack it up last season when you lost to Northern Illinois at home and just say, fuck it, we're done. But they fought back. Even the national championship against Ohio State, like, the final score, like, they fought back in that game. They were getting their ass handed to them, if I believe so. If I remember correctly, they fought back in that game. They showed a lot of fight.
Like, if not for that pass completion, Jose, like, we have a chance.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would have had. Yeah, they would have had a chance. Like, Marcus Freeman, like, that's one thing. That's it. You always want to bet on a team that's gonna fight for their coach, and like Notre Dame has showed us, they're willing to fight for their coach. So yeah, I have no problem backing Notre Dame.
Yeah, and we see Notre Dame right here as the 8th or tied for the 7th team with Oregon at plus 1,200 to win the national championship. Tyler, you got anything you want to add on Notre Dame real quick?
I do not.
Okay.
Hey, listen, real quick, guys, real quick. I know. Sorry, last point. If Notre Dame loses one of their first 2 games against Miami or A&M, I guarantee you will see a bet come through action that I bet on them to win the national championship, because their odds are going to drop. And the rest of their schedule is not that bad. If they lose one of those 2, I will bet on them to win the national championship.
Yeah, and if there's going to be one of the 2, it's going to be A&M. Home openers have not been friendly to Marcus Freeman. He's got 1 win against Tennessee Tech in his era. In our home openers, yeah. Marshall and Northern Illinois were the losses, so he's 1-2 in home openers. So
we see
that against us. That's the one.
We see Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Penn State, Clemson, Alabama, and Oregon right there ahead of Notre Dame. Brian, we appreciate that breakdown, and we thank you for coming on here and breaking down Notre Dame for us. And before we close out the show, I'm going to go through everyone here because we are covering the Big Ten tonight. But who is in the Big Ten title game and who wins it? And if you want to throw out who you have making the playoffs, that's fine, or we can wait. Y'all can wait and do it when we do our G5 and award show. But I'll go ahead and start. Well, hang on. You go ahead and start, Jose. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the odds. Who do you have in that Big Ten title game, and who wins it?
Well, who wins it's rhetorical. We all know who's going to win it. That's going to be the Buckeyes. But they're going to play Indiana. and I expect the Buckeyes to come out victorious because that's what we do. So I'm taking Ohio State to win the conference.
Big T.
Unfortunately, will be Ohio State.
No. Okay, never mind.
Ohio
I thought you were
State,
gonna say Penn State.
and Ohio State wins.
Yeah, I got Penn State and Michigan, and Penn State wins.
Oh my
Oh.
God.
Brian.
Look, I'm gonna take an absolute flyer here. This is gonna be a wild one for me, but if it hits, look, you heard it here first. I know you guys aren't very high on them this year. I know you don't think their quarterback's all that in a bag of chips, but I think their schedule is very, very possible to put them in a position to be in this game, not win it, but be in it. I think it's gonna be Ohio State, Illinois in the Big Ten title game. I think they're gonna make a push. I think they can win 10 games with that schedule, and make a way into that conference title game. Do they win it? Absolutely fuck no. No. Ohio State.
All right.
I can't believe John just said Penn State, bro.
I've got to go. I've got to get up here and order my Penn State shirt to wear for next week's episode. But yeah, and so next week we will be on the SEC, and I would expect 4 or 5 teams to make it out of that conference as well. Tyler gets to talk about his Hogs. I get to talk about my Bulldogs. And yeah, we're excited for that episode. We will be posting clips over on our TikTok, which is linked in our bio, as well as I do want to let the people know that the Apple and Spotify podcasts are coming back. We are working on that. We're trying to figure out how to get the audio from YouTube to Spotify and Apple, but that should be worked out this week, hopefully. So the people that enjoyed the podcast over the lives, they are coming back for you. They will be back very soon, hopefully by the end of this week. We've just got to get the audio over there. We appreciate everyone tuning in, the likes, the comments. And yeah, comment on any video that I post clips of, and we will get back to you if you have any questions or takes. But yeah, we got SEC next week. Then we have we're going to be doing a group of 5 and award show, and we'll also kind of say who we have in the playoffs in that show as well. And I believe, Brian, you will be with us next week as well, giving a take on Auburn.
War Eagle, baby.
Yep. So, yeah, again, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Give this a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and we will see you all next week for the SEC. Have a good night.
See ya.